Today's episode is brought to you by the Positively Productive Toolkit, a collection of workbooks that guide you through self discovery and self awareness. These self guided workbooks, which include links to assessments, can be completed in minutes. Request this free resource and others at the positivelyproductive.com/resources page. Do you ever feel like productivity advice gives you hope and pressure at the same time? Like, the planners are beautiful, the strategies make sense, the experts sound so confident, and yet when you try to apply it, something's not quite right. It works for a while, or it works in theory, or it works until life lifes you. And then somewhere inside you hear that whisper, why can't I just do this? Why is this so hard for me? I just need more discipline, more effort. If that feels familiar, you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, a productivity coach and the founder of Positively Productive Systems. But more than that, I'm a caregiver, a multi-passionate creative, and a wife and mom to teens and cats. This show is for caregivers, creatives, multitaskers, and anyone whose energy fluctuates and whose life doesn't fit neatly inside the boxes of those pre-printed, color-coded planners. Don't get me wrong, those planners are pretty, but I've learned after more than a decade of studying productivity, coaching clients, and now sharing over 300 podcast episodes, energy is not a constant. Capacity has its limits. Passions don't. And most productivity systems ignore it all, trying to offer you a one-size-fits-all solution that rarely works. Before I became a coach, I was a multi-passionate person trying to do all the things. I loved ideas, I loved learning, I loved creating. But I didn't love how short-lived my jobs and projects were. I listened to my gut, which is why I kept moving forward, and I followed my dreams, but it came with shame because I wasn't following through the same way other people did. In order to make up for it, I focused on being productive and studied productivity intensely. Blogs, videos, courses, planners, frameworks. Sound familiar? I would take the advice that sounded so simple, but actually wasn't for me. And I realized it all included that word, just. You just need to wake up earlier. You just need to commit. You just need to prioritize better. You just need a better system, this system. And every time I heard the word just, it was like a verdict against me. Because if it was just that simple, then what was wrong with me? And I had to let go of all of that, thankfully, when life intensified and I became a caregiver. What a trade off. My priorities shifted to keeping people alive and well, and I didn't worry so much about, quote, being productive. During a 5-year stretch, I cared for my mother with Alzheimer's in our home, and I went through 2 pregnancies. At one point, I was caring for her, an infant, and a toddler. Throughout it all, I was working in multiple businesses, including one with my husband while he worked full time. I was exhausted, grieving, managing logistics, navigating unpredictability at every turn. I was in survival mode. And I kept trying to apply the systems I knew that I'd been taught that assumed I had consistent energy and uninterrupted focus, which I didn't, not even close. They didn't fit. And not because they were bad systems, but because they weren't built for real life, or at least my life. At some point, I figured out something had to give, and I didn't want it to be me. There had to be a better way. I stopped trying to make myself fit the system, and I started building systems that fit me, that fit my life. That shift is the foundation of everything I teach. On this podcast, we redefine productivity with compassion and with consideration to your real life. And that doesn't mean lowering standards or avoiding action. It means working with your energy, whether it's bountiful or limited. Designing flexible systems that adapt when life does. Reducing friction instead of adding pressure. Using self-awareness as your number one productivity tool, and building sustainable success instead of bursts of it, followed by burnout. We have shame-free productivity conversations here. We talk about all the things that impact productivity, and the list may surprise you. And every episode includes practical tools and grounded action. You'll find solo episodes where I walk you through the why and how of things that affect your productivity and ways to approach being more productive that are so doable. They almost seem easy. I know they aren't. They're certainly simple. But the most important thing is that there's something you will be able to take action on, and that will feel so good. You'll also hear interviews with guests who align with this compassion, science-informed, real-life approach. And occasionally, you'll get to listen in on strategy calls with real clients so you can hear how these ideas apply in real time. And you'll get to hear how I coach. After more than 300 episodes, there's a lot to offer here, which is a gift when you're searching for inspiration and guidance and options. But I also understand that it can be potentially overwhelming. And my goal is the opposite here. So I've made it easy for you to navigate based on what you need right now. When you visit the podcast page at positivelyproductive.com, you can find what you need in a few ways. Use the search bar to type in exactly what you're looking for: burnout, energy, prioritize, stress management, decluttering, self-care. You can also browse curated playlists organized by theme, including stress management, grief and trauma, tech tools, strategy calls, and so many more. You can choose based on your mood, your season of life, or your capacity for today. In the moment, whatever it is that you need, you can search for. And you don't have to start with the podcast at episode 1. If you'd like to and you want to binge, I welcome you to do so. People have. But if that feels overwhelming, don't do it. This episode is your anchor point and your welcome and your introduction to everything. And you can simply start with this and then go where you need to. And that's really what this podcast is all about. Meeting you where you are, without shame, without pressure, and without pretending your life is simpler than it is. If you've tried all the systems, if you've pushed yourself harder than you'd ever push someone you love, if you suspect there has to be a healthier, more effective way to approach productivity, there is, and you'll find it here. My promise to you is this: this podcast will not become another task on your to-do list. It will be a resource you return to, a reframing when your mindset feels off and you're struggling with it, a practical guide when you feel unsure how to proceed and you need the smallest step possible so that you learn you can do this, and when you need a reminder that effectiveness and compassion can coexist beautifully. If that resonates, be sure to follow the show on your favorite player so you catch new episodes as they land in your feed each week. And when you're ready for more or something different, go to the podcast page at positivelyproductive.com and search for the conversation that meets your most current need. This is productivity redesigned for real life. This is shame-free productivity. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. I hope this episode inspired you, and I encourage you to think about one action you can take based on today's topic. Then share it with me so I can cheer you on. Go to positivelyproductive.com to connect with me, read blog posts, and access links from each episode and download resources.